Thanks a lot for having me, Alina. I'm super excited to be here. Too bad we can't meet up in person in Georgia, but we're gonna have fun today.
Yeah, hope to see you soon again. Okay, so the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I hope you're safe at home with your family or in your office. Today, we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is surviving during COVID, how to make your company thrive. So just to give you a bit of an overview about myself, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Lemlist, which is the coolest sales automation platform on the market. We grew from 0 to 10,000 plus customers worldwide in less than 3 years and made approximately and reached actually like the 3 million ARR mark recently, so annual recurring revenue. In this presentation, my goal is really to give you tons of actionable advice, and I want to discuss about 5 things. First is why it's important to focus on your users or customers during such a crisis that we're facing today. Then why it's super important to also keep doing sales prospecting, especially if you're in B2B. Also, I will show you how to become a LinkedIn rock, grow your own community, and also how to get on podcasts. It's gonna be pretty intense, so I hope you you're all present and ready. So why should you focus on your users? Like I've talked to a lot of founders, and essentially like during the early days of the COVID, people were afraid to talk about their customers. The reason why is they were thinking that if they go and have a chat with their customers, maybe they're gonna stop their subscription, maybe they're gonna want to cancel or get a refund or whatever. And essentially like they thought that they were gonna lose more money. But in the end, your customers and your users are the source of truth, and there is a one that will help you grow even in a time of crisis. Reason why? People forget often that it's actually 10 times easier to upsell an existing customer than to acquire a new one. So eventually you're going to tell me that during a crisis, some customers are actually out of money and it's difficult to upsell them. And I'll give you actually later on the solution to that problem. But something very actionable that you can take from there, it's what we did at Lemlist. So Nadia from my team basically decided to send like a really cool emails to all of our customers and top paying customers, where essentially we were giving outbound ideas for free. So free consultation, free growth consultation to our users in a time of crisis, where essentially like she was a bit giving a bit of fun. So we pretended that we put a fake tag first name, but actually the name of the person was well replaced. It was really like something nice, trying to provide value about a webinar that we did and helping, basically giving them tips and trying to help them grow. In the end, like this email really gave us like tons of meeting with our customers and tons of ideas. Let me explain you why. So during a crisis, people are actually facing new problems. For you, your company, it's probably the same. Like you saw a crisis, things did not go as planned for most of them when we were planning the year 2020. But the thing is, like your customers are actually your best source of knowledge. So if they are facing new problems, it means that potentially tons of other people are also facing the exact same problem. So for you, it's a huge opportunity to find ways to help them. That's first thing. And second thing, it's a great way to strengthen relationship and also grow your revenue. Let's say that, for example, you're now struggling with a new issue because of COVID. You're still a business, you're still making money. And one of your provider is giving you solution to that problem. Will you pay for it? I guess the answer is yes. We pay people all the time to help us solving problems. That's the essence of pretty much any business. And during a crisis, nothing's changed. The only thing that changed is just the problems. But it means that we can still find solution. And that's what's also pretty exciting with entrepreneurship. And we come to that second thing. So once you've so the first step was actually to focus on your users. Spend time with them, understand their pain. What is their new problems? How can you help them figure out a solution? Once you know that, next step is to go prospecting, because your users, your customers are not alone. For example, a lot of companies during COVID, let's say like we can take any shops, any like shops that have brick and mortar space, they had to close during the lockdown. They need to make revenue. So an issue they had, for example, could be that they need a website or a platform to help them build delivery, and they can't go on Amazon. So one issue you can do is basically like help them do this type of thing. And that could be a service you would provide, like an additional service, and make money because you're solving problem. So once you know like what problems people are facing from your existing customers and you know how to help them, it's super easy to go prospect and find other people because they really have, again, the same problem and you have a solution for it. So never forget that sales is about helping people find solutions to their problems. If you stop prospecting during a crisis, it really means to me that you've stopped thinking that you can help people out, which is really like a pain. So what did we do at Lemlist? For us, it was, we basically created like a video like this, very personalized, and we knew that we were mapping out like the problems people were facing, the fact that it was maybe tough for people to understand how to come up with new ideas and do sales prospecting in a time of crisis. Since we held a lot of webinars with top sales experts, we actually had a lot of content about it. Once people click on this image, which is personalized image automatically done with Lemlist, they would land up again on a dynamic landing page. So as you can see on this landing page, what's pretty amazing with our system is that we will pick automatically the logo of the company you're reaching out to. And here for each person, we would add the first name of the person or the company name, etc., etc. All of this is done automatically, which gives a unique personalized experience to the people who are actually like clicking on the thumbnail and eventually like build a warmer relationship. And below, as you can see, there is also like a Calendly link allowing people to basically book meetings directly. On top of it, once people don't answer to that message or don't book a meeting, we actually allow them to have like a follow-up. There's a common saying in the US which states that money is in the follow-up. So if you don't follow up after an email, if you didn't receive an answer, you're essentially losing money. The way we did it, again, as you can see, like Lemlist can do like a lot of personalized images. So here there is the first name of the person on a coffee cup, and Nadia is basically offering like a coffee, explaining and giving more values again in the email. You will get access to the slides, so no worries. You'll be able to check that in more details. Just wanted to give you some actionable tips that you can reuse. And now we go to the next step, which is how can you become a LinkedIn rockstar? You know, LinkedIn, it's the biggest community for B2B professionals, and it's basically the place to be if you're in B2B. Essentially, like the first step when you want to become a LinkedIn rockstar is to grow and connect with people within your network. So for example, if you're like targeting head of growth, what you're going to do is search for head of growth in a specific location and use a tool that's called Phantom Busters that will allow you to connect automatically with, let's say, 50 head of growth every day. The good thing with that is that you absolutely have nothing to do. It does automatically, it runs in the back end, and you can just relax, sip a cocktail or whatever. That's up to you. Once you have that, it's next step coming in. And essentially, it's basically like try to connect with your customers and users. If you have customers, reach out to them, ask them to connect with you on LinkedIn, etc. It's a great way to build a better relationship. And I'm going to show you how in a second, just because of the content you will write later on. Then it's important to expose them to your content. So here, you know, like this post was really like in line with the crisis. So I started by asking a question that everyone was asking themselves. Should I keep prospecting during the crisis? That's the question I've been hearing the most. In my opinion, stop is pro would mean that you see that this intro, it's very like insightful and it brings like curiosity to people. And that's why most of people would click on see more. I will show you like in a minute all the different things and approach that you can use in order to boost the activation and interest of people. Another thing, in order to write like great LinkedIn posts, is your intro needs to stand out. So for example, here, good way to make an intro stand up, ask a question. Can you make more than $1 million in revenue in your first year of joining a startup? That's pretty exciting. You know, like it's very catchy. And obviously there is also a great image, colorful. You get the attention. Here it was like, you see like 265 likes and 30 comments. So pretty huge. Then attention with the image. It's a great pattern interrupt. So people who are scrolling down your feed are actually, you know, like watching all the time the same type of post, etc. However, if there's an image or a video, it kind of interrupt everything, break the patterns, and you have the first step of, you know, like getting the attention of someone from your network. Second step is write actionable topics. So potentially for me, as an example, I've been, you know, like an expert in sales and sales prospecting, and also especially with cold emails. So I started making like this kind of analysis of top cold emails that I received, and I explained, you know, like each single step, why it was bringing value, etc., etc. In total, I had like about 900 likes and 100 comments on such things. Another way is to really make your template and your post on LinkedIn value packed. So don't try to sell your company. Most of people, what they do usually when they post on LinkedIn, they're going to be like, okay, look why my company is the best in the world, blah, blah, blah. Like people don't care about you. However, from all the things that you've learned, you can really bring a lot of value to people. And to do so, what I would advise is to always talk about a subject that you're an expert in. So if, for example, you're really good in SEO, talk about SEO. If you're an entrepreneur or a startup owner and you want to write about management, about communication between teams, about the process that you start doing, just do it, because this brings tons of value. And again, sales in the end is about relationships. What you want to do on LinkedIn is not showcasing your brand, not showcasing your product, service, etc. This doesn't work. What you want to do is bring value to people. So whenever they see your post, they connect with you on an emotional level and actually start trusting you and will become eventually interested in what you're doing. And if there's a good fit, then they will reach out. Very specific example I'm going to give you. I used to write a lot of posts about how to write good cold emails, how to set up your outbound strategy, etc. Every time I made a post, I had a lot of engagement because I was bringing a lot of value. People were visiting my profile. I had about like, I don't know, between 300 and 500 people every time I posted visiting my profile. Most of them were then checking my company, Lemlist, then seeing that we're the experts in doing sales prospecting, and people were reaching out to me directly saying, hey, Guillaume, just look at your platform, really love it, etc., etc. I was not selling Lemlist on LinkedIn, but because I was bringing value, people were interested in knowing me, knowing what I was doing. And if what I was providing was a good fit for them, they would reach out automatically. So it's a great way to generate revenue, provide value, build trust and relationship with your users, especially in the long run. So again, it's good if you can to tag other people on your post, just because it kind of shows that you're connected. It's a social network, so it's important to interact. You can also create some viral posts where essentially like you will ask people to engage and comment something. So that works really well. You can say, we've wrote the best cold email guides about XYZ. We're going to show you how to skyrocket your sales. If you want that guide, just comment interested below and I will send it to you. Most of people will start commenting interested. Then there is what we call like kind of a viral effect of the bandwagon effect. So meaning the more people are commenting, the more people will comment. And that works really well. A good example that I can show you here is basically that's what I did with Aaron Ross, saying that the seats were limited to a conference we were doing together. And I had about like 450 comments, which is pretty huge on LinkedIn. Obviously, use hashtag also. Some people are tracking content by hashtag, so it's interesting. Here is something you can take a screenshot of, even though you'll get access to the slide, but I think it's quite nice. ways to start, did you know that, blah, 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 or wondering how to, I want to tell you a story, how Lemlist achieved, blah, blah, blah. All these things are kind of great intros because they trigger curiosity, which is really essential whenever people are actually on LinkedIn. We're almost at halftime. So what I'm going to do is basically like you can prepare all your questions for the Q&A. I see everything on my screen. So whenever you have questions, feel free to ask them also. I will basically have like 5 minutes at the end where I will try to answer everything. And in the meantime, I'm going to keep moving on the slides. But make sure to ask your question as we go. That way, I can see that there are questions coming in. So why it's important to grow your community. At Lemlist, we grew the biggest community around sales automation. It's called the Sales Automation Family. It's a great way basically to get tons of insights with your customers and from your customers. And the thing is, why most people fail with community is that they don't see the long term. It's something where you need to be consistent. You will not see like a good ROI in the early days, but in the long run, it always pay off. Example, here we actually asked what CRM people were using. When we saw that Pipedrive and HubSpot were the top CRM, we then asked them like, okay, are you struggling with setting up your CRM? What are you struggling with, etc.? And we co-created the best content out there, for example, about Pipedrive. And in the end, what happened is that Pipedrive just decided to share again to their community our guide. And the thing is, like, it wouldn't have happened if we were not asking questions to our users, if we were not connecting with them, etc., etc. So use your community to provide tons of value to your existing users, and it will provide, again, the same value to potential prospects or other users. On top of that, every week, we have what we call the Lemlister of the Week section, which essentially allows people to be rewarded once they write like the best campaigns. We showcase them, show their templates, why it's working, giving really actionable tips to all our users and helping people be showcased as top Lemlister, which is kind of like something you can be proud of just because we have so many customers out there. Finally, getting on podcasts is really great because it will allow you to get a lot of exposure and also get exposure from an audience that is not your own. So step by step. Podcasts, it's amazing because again, as I said, you're gonna have like very specific audience. So for example, let's say I'm a SaaS owner, so software owner. There are like tons of podcasts that are focusing on what we call SaaS, so software as a service growth. For these things, I'm gonna be, like willing to be on this podcast, and I want to reach out to the guy that's doing the podcast in order to be interviewed. So again, how should you do? Like they get like tons of requests. They get prospected a lot because everyone wants to be on their podcast. So what you can do is basically try to experiment the ultra personalization. Here in a Google Sheet, what you're going to do is have 4 or 5 different columns. The first one is the email. Second one is the first name, then the name of the podcast, obviously. And finally, like something that's called like personalization sentence, which is a sentence that's really highly personalized. So here, for example, UI breakfast with Jane. The sentence will be, the episode with Jess Gohels was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to what he had to say about being customer-centric and making sure you're solving problems in a meaningful way. This sentence is really personalized, and the reason why you want to make extra personalization is when doing sales prospecting, you want to make your messaging about the audience and not about yourself. That's really, really important because when you're a founder of a startup, the things are, and the chances are that, you're going to be really like in love with your product, in love with your service. You're thinking that what you're doing is the best thing in the world. But the truth is most people don't care. Actually, I would say that 99% of the people really don't care about it. So when you reach out to someone, there's no need to really like introduce yourself at first. You should make the message about them. And making the message about them takes time and personalization. And since most emails actually out there are very like generic, like they don't really spend time personalizing on the person they reach out to, it's an issue. So what I would advise is to make these little sentences. Like if it's on a podcast, you can listen to a few episodes, find something that was very relevant and add it. Explain why you loved it. And once you compliment the person, it's much easier to ask for something in return. So again, this was the data part, and now we can basically check out the template. So the way we started it is with a subject line. Subject line was intriguing. It's I've got a story for you, first name. Intriguing. People recording podcasts, like they always want stories, so that's important. Here we started with a bit of an intro line to give a context. It's a pretty long email, so I think it's important that whenever you're formatting it, you always add breaks between the line, just so you're sure that everything is readable, especially on mobile. Then we had like that personalized sentence that I mentioned, previously, a really advanced personalized sentence. So again, it can be pretty much anything. It can also be like an article that you saw online about their podcast, or a reward they receive, or a specific episode they had. So anything that will show that you've spent the time to do some research about them. That's critical. Once you have that, it's basically like important to give the reason why you've reached out. For me, very simple. I'd love to be a guest on the show. Then it's time to kind of sell yourself. So you give a bit more context, what you've done in the past X years, here's what I've accomplished, etc., etc. Then you want to make yourself worthwhile. So if you want to be prospect centric, you need to understand who their audience is and also why you're a good fit. So for example, if you're going again, let's say that you're a very famous cook and there is a podcast that's only for like the top foodies. If you reach out to the person that's doing that podcast, you're going to say, I've always loved cooking since my, early days. I've opened XYZ restaurant. They got like 4 stars here and there. I'd love to be on the show. Why me? Why now? Always try to answer that question. And that's really, really important, because once you have that, it's much easier for the next steps. So again, adding a bit of social proof is also key, just because, in the end, you need to answer that question whenever they're reading. What's in it for me? So right now, if we go back to the structure, I've messaged something and told you that I spent time learning and searching about yourself and your company and your podcast, sorry. But it works also for sales. It's exactly the same structure. Then I've explained, a bit of context, why I was reaching out. Then I've answered the 2 most important questions: why me? Why now? And finally, and that's really, really important, it's what's in it for them. So for me here, the goal was to showcase that I was very well known. My LinkedIn post got more than 1 million views. I had a big community. Wrote articles that got like hundreds of thousands of readers, etc., etc. So put all the highlights of what you've accomplished as an entrepreneur, and it can be about pretty much anything, but it's a great way, to get out there and get an extra, boost. And again, you need to answer something really important. It's again, what's in it for them. So in that case, it's always great to showcase that you have a big audience, that you'll be willing to share the podcast with your audience as well, because the goal of any person, whether it's on TV or whether it's, a podcast or whatever, or even actually top journalists, etc., they always want to get more fame, grow their audience. That's actually why people interview most famous or celebrities, etc., because they want to get their audience and they want to get more audience, grow their own, and eventually in their end, it's like making more money with it. So if you can share the interview you're making with a big audience, obviously they're going to be much more willing to invite you on the podcast. So it's always important to remind it to them. That way they see what's in it for them, and they see that you're, really involved in this presentation of the podcast, and that you're quite happy with it. So this campaign, just so you know, it's something that actually really worked well for us. So we actually ran that campaign quite a long time ago, but we, out of the 47 email we sent, 84% opened, 20% clicked, and we had about like 40% reply rate, meaning that I got booked in between like 15 to 20 podcasts, which was pretty intense, but gave like tons of traffic towards Lemlist, toward the community, etc. So again, ultra personalization is the key, whether it's on podcast or in sales. On my end, as I said, 10 plus podcast, I think it was around 20. And again, like whenever, like we receive, because it's always important to link podcast. It's not just about fame. It's about how many business will bring you in the long run. And in our case, it's thousands of euros of revenue, and it keeps growing in time, because it's what you get, in the first weeks is obviously like big, but actually podcasts, what's nice with that is that they always stay there, and eventually it gets bigger and bigger. So I really hope like this presentation was actionable for you. If you have question, you can always email me at guillaume@lemlist.com. I know my first name is difficult like to pronounce, but eventually you have it there, so you can just copy paste it or type it. Now, if you have questions, I'll be very happy to answer them. Okay, so there is a good question from Christina. Is there a different type of content you suggest posting from your personal LinkedIn versus company? Yeah, so company page, to be honest, for me, they don't work really well on LinkedIn. It's good to use them and post updates about the company. You can say, talk about the company retreat, talk about like many different things. But basically, what I would advise is to really help your employees and help the person from your team post on specific topic. So for example, all the people in our team who are doing sales are posting about their life as a salespeople, what they struggle with, how, and they, it's very important to be vulnerable. So what you can say, for example, is like, my first month doing sales was terrible. I went on that demo and I did X, Y, Z. And then you give like tips like this, and people can really relate to that. And then, it's much easier to make connection. So to answer your question, company page, post things about your company. It's okay to post articles that you wrote, etc. Personal, it's much more about building trust and relationship with your customers. So really like try to be vulnerable, try to show like that you're an expert in a specific topic. If you're not an expert, you can become one. It's like you have all the information you need online. Find the topics, write them, like in bullet points. For example, you've read an article that was interesting, try to summarize it with 3 to 4 bullet points. And people, whenever they're going to read it, they're going to think, okay, like that person knows what she's talking about. And that's amazing. On our end, just to give you some numbers, all the persons that are working in sales and marketing at Lemlist are doing this on a weekly basis. They post 2 to 3 times every week. And we're getting out of it between 15 to 20 meetings every week, thanks to that with customers. So that's real money when that's my point.
Well, I think that was really cool. Thank you a lot, Guillaume, for the presentation and for answering questions. I really hope to see you again in Tbilisi very soon.
Yeah, definitely. Let's organize something soon. Bye, everyone. Take care. Let's keep in touch.